Welcome back everyone to Gotcha Interact. We'll be taking a look at the second half of the 5.3 banners today. The first character we're going to be looking at is Arlecchino, then we'll be looking at Clorinde, even taking a peek at the 4 stars that are on this banner as well. So let's go through both of these banners, seeing if these characters, their weapons, and maybe looking at the 4 stars as well. Let's see if those are actually worth it for you.
And if you do enjoy the video, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and check out the rest of the channel for other videos you might find interest in. We do also have a Discord and you can find a link of that in our description. Now, let's get on to the video.
So the first character we want to talk about is going to be Arlecchino. Obviously a kind of a newer character, but still an extremely strong character as well. Obviously being one of the Harbingers anyways, but being one of the best DPS in the game, there's a few different things you guys need to know if you guys are going to be thinking about playing her and using her. Her biggest way of how she does damage is going to be her normal attack. Now, keep that in mind because that is how you're going to be leveling her, is to be focusing on her normal attack. At the same time, you're also going to want to focus into making sure you're leveling into her burst. Those are two major things you want to level into, and you know, leveling into your skill isn't that terrible either, but your damage is not really going to change. But you do use your skill quite a lot. The whole point of how Arlecchino works is you use your skill to put a Veil Moon Bloodfire, or basically you're going to put a Blood Debt Directive on an opponent or multiple opponents when they get hit, because it's kind of like an AoE pyro damage hit. At this point in time at C0, you're going to have to wait 5 seconds for this to actually trigger. Once it does, it'll actually kind of glow a little bit more red, and then you'll actually have the ability to do a charge attack on this enemy or any of the enemies, and you'll be able to pick up a certain amount of Bond of Life based on her max HP. Obviously with more constellations, that changes her gameplay a little bit, like her C2, giving her the ability to not have to wait that 5 seconds. But that's basically what you do. At this point in time, you're going to get a Pyro Infusion, and then Arlecchino just spams normal attacks. At the same time, you do have a very long cooldown on your skill, but these normal attacks will slowly eat away at that cooldown actually and slowly decrease it. Also, you can use your burst to immediately consume all the Bond of Life that you've gotten and heal yourself. Only Arlecchino though. And that is very, very helpful because the whole point of Arlecchino is she cannot be healed while she's in combat by other characters. She's the only one that can heal herself while you're in combat. So yes, you can heal outside of combat, but when you're inside of combat, Arlecchino is her own source of life.
Now quickly going over Clorinde, she is an electro-based DPS who does ascend into crit rate, so she will be a great character to go after. If you don't already have an electro DPS, she'll be a great addition to your account. She is also a Bond of Life based character, which there are only like 3 characters in the game, being Arlecchino herself and Clorinde, but also Sigewinne. With Clorinde being an electro DPS, most of her damage is actually dealt through her normal attacks, but there is a catch to this. This is all through her skill and not her actual normal attacks. So just keep that in mind, that all the damage she is doing, you're going to go into her skill and you're going to do normal attacks mixed with her skill, but it is all considered normal attack damage. So if you're wanting to know how to buff her specific damage, anything that buffs normal attacks, Ayato's Burst, Yunjin, Candace C6, stuff like that, that's what's going to help Clorinde. In short, the way Clorinde works is you're going to go into her rotation using her skill, and then you're going to use your normal attack button to do these Swift Hunt Pistolet attacks. Now, how her Bond of Life works with all of this, when she has less than 100% Bond of Life, then when she does the Pistolet shot, it will grant her Bond of Life with the amount gained based on her max HP. Also, she can pierce opponents with this, which is pretty cool. So she has a pretty good AoE, pretty up close, and can hit multiple opponents and shred right through them. And her damage does actually increase based with that. The other way you're going to be dealing damage inside of this skill state, besides her normal attacks, you're also going to be doing your skill in between this called Impaled Knight. Now, you want to do this at a certain moment, typically when you have a lot of Bond of Life, so that it does more damage. When you have 0 Bond of Life, you're just going to perform a normal lunging strike. But when you have Bond of Life that is less than 100% of her max HP, she's actually going to heal herself based on her Bond of Life value, and the AoE of this skill attack will be increased, as well as the damage. With her burst, this is very, very simple. All she basically does is do a lot of AoE electro damage, but also grant herself Bond of Life based on her max HP. So this can help you get into using her skill state more and mitigating how she loses and gains Bond of Life to maximize her damage output with her skill and normal attacks. This video is sponsored by TokyoTreat and Sakuraco. TokyoTreat and Sakuraco's mission is to invite everyone to experience Japan from the comfort of their own homes through their TokyoTreat and Sakuraco snack boxes. And what better way to do it than just that, by delivering these snack boxes across the seas for all of us to enjoy these locally produced items. Use code INTERACT or use our link in the description to get $5 off your first purchase of either TokyoTreat or Sakuraco.
Now jumping right into our actual snack boxes, on my end at least from what I got, which was the Sakuraco box. This was for New Year's in Japan. I'm going to pull up the box and at least try to. And you know what I love about like Sakuraco and TokyoTreat? They're not like certain chip brands in America where 90% of the bag is air. Everything is filled to the brim, which we will heavily love and accept. With Sakuraco, a great thing about them is that they also give you guys a tea, and I'm getting the Yuzu Sencha tea. So as I go ahead and drink that, Rift, you go ahead and do the whatever else you have going on.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, their teas are amazing. I had last month's tea, was really good. I'm sure that one's really good as well. I mean, they just, it's local tea. It's gonna be good, right? But like, as you can see, both boxes do come with this booklet at the very top, but they do go over like how the different snacks are crafted, because they are crafted locally, a lot of this stuff using those local ingredients, which makes them have that really unique flavor to them, and you feel like you're in Japan. And so that's just the thing I love about this stuff. But like some of the crazy stuff, like look at this, guys. What is this? I'm gonna have to open this and get a look at this because I love Kit Kats. But that's kind of the thing with TokyoTreat, is that it's more of a snacky vibe.
The great thing also about the tea is that there's 2 packets in here. Extremely good tea, by the way. It's way more herbal, like lemon, like because it's yuzu. Yuzu is like a citrusy, similar to like a lemon. Not very sweet, which I also do accept. I really actually do like when you get tea. It's a little bit more earthy almost, so it's very, very good. I really, really like the tea.
So here is the Kit Kats. So I opened that massive package I showed you earlier. It has a lot of these individually wrapped Kit Kats, and I am definitely a Kit Kat person, so oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's good. Oh, that's really good. Yeah, I mean, they taste like what that looks like. It's chocolatey, it's strawberry. For my lack of being able to read Japanese, that's what it tastes like, and it tastes really good.
I think I fell in love with these nuts. Pause. I actually do really like these cashews, and so these have like a maple outside to them.
So I'm gonna try one of these. These were also individually wrapped, and so I don't really know what this is, but I'm about to find out.
I feel like that's every single one of these boxes.
It's a surprise, and you're just waiting to delve in.
This matcha dorayaki, I'm probably butchering that, looks like a pancake, and considering it's matcha, it's 2 soft pancakes that's sandwiched between red bean paste. That's fantastic. The pancake is like really sweet, and the bean paste on the inside is like a nice, like kind of, it's like a matcha bean paste. So I thought the entire thing was matcha, but it's a matcha bean paste on the inside.
It does sound good. I do like the matcha things. I just opened up this interesting looking package. It's got like these little gummies. That's what these are on the package here, if I can point correctly. But it's like these little gummy looking things, which pretty good. I like gummy candy, so yeah, it tastes pretty much like what you would expect. I guess it's like a strawberry. I like it. Really good.
I know you're a big sweet person.
I think I got a pancake too.
It's like really, those are really, really good. I also got gummies. You said gummies, and
I love gummies. I love gummies. These are so good. If you like gummies, these are good, okay? Like, it's worth getting the whole box just for the gummies. And the Kit Kats.
Never mind, this is not a gummy. I was wrong. It is a red and white plum kohakuto.
Oh yeah, I saw those in the booklet.
It's a sugar
really
candle.
Good.
Edible jewelry is what it's also known. Oh my goodness.
What'd you just eat? What am I about to eat? I don't even know. Cake? It smells like bread. It just smells like straight up a loaf of bread. Okay, it's definitely savory. So don't bite into this thinking it's sweet, because you'll be in for a rude awakening.
This is sesame daikaki. It's like domestic glutinous and non-glutinous rice. It's like sesame seeds on top of like dough with a sweet soy sauce.
These look pretty good. I'm always in for some chocolate. These look heavenly. Okay, it's that chocolate box I just showed last, but it had a package inside, and it's got like, I don't want to spill these, but I probably will anyways. But those are like little chocolates inside. They look so good.
Opening up a Sakuraco or TokyoTreat box is like Christmas, but like every month.
Yep, I think you said that last time even, but hey, you're not wrong.
7 lucky gods. Each deity symbolizes different things. Oh, so it's like a good fortune for the new year ahead. You guys can let me know if I just ate a bad one. Do I have good fortune or bad fortune now? Are my 50-50s gonna hit or not hit?
We'll have to see. We'll know if you're losing all of them. So these look just like your basic ordinary potato chips, but I don't know. It's probably like really special, right? Because it's from Japan and it's gonna be really good. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Japan equals good.
These are good. If you like chips, you'll like these, okay? That's all I can say.
I would love to grab these, but I don't have any utensils near me right now.
Ooh. It came with its own little ramen pack. Didn't you get this last month, too? Is this a TokyoTreat thing to just always get a pack of ramen? That's so
Yeah,
cool.
So with Sakuraco, you're getting a tea, and then with TokyoTreat, you're basically always getting a ramen, at least from the way that I've seen it.
Which is great. I like ramen. Some quality ramen. Get away from that Maruchan, am I right?
Oh, no. Rift, I'm sorry.
I have a new addiction. What? What are you sorry for? What'd you get?
Strawberry daifuku. It's like a sweet rice cake. Like a strawberry sweet rice cake.
At least I got my Kit Kats, so.
There's like 30 or 40 of these in here.
Sakuraco basically does, each month box is a different theme. And so is TokyoTreat, by the way. They're different themes each month. Like last month was a different theme. It was a little bit more Christmassy theme. This one is a little bit more New Year's theme, which makes a lot of sense. But I know in the last box, I got a really cool like flower dish. I actually have it over here. This is what I got last month as part of the December Sakuraco box. So Vixen, I believe you got, what was it? Some kind of cloth coaster for this month?
Yeah, so I got it. It's actually really nice because it came with the tea. So you got the shonsui dish, I believe,
right,
last month. This is it's like a little decorative coaster. It is actually a really, really nice quality as well. It looks really well done, actually.
It looks pretty cool.
Another month that Sakuraco and I'm sure TokyoTreat have absolutely knocked out of the park. Really, really good stuff, I think. Well, we once again would like to thank Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for going ahead and sponsoring this video. Make sure you use code INTERACT by going ahead and grabbing the link in the description, going ahead and checking out, grabbing a box for yourself for this upcoming month, and starting a new subscription, grabbing a lot of Japanese snacks. And if you guys did go ahead and do so, you guys will get $5 off your first purchase as well. Thank you again to Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for sponsoring this video. Now, back to the content. Now we're going to quickly jump over and look at some questions about these characters. The first question we always talk about is, do you actually need either character on your account? Kind of looking at really, do you actually have the need for these elements? Bond of Life, a really, really strong damage dealer. Who else can fill that role that you're maybe looking for? And so kind of looking at this question at face value, first for Arlecchino is is she actually useful? Is she a valuable character? That is 110% yes. Now, yes, I am an Arlecchino lover. Obviously, Rift, you can easily attest to that. I absolutely love Arlecchino. But that being said, she's still an extremely strong character either way, though, and honestly, that can be shown just through her amazing scaling as well as through that Bond of Life. She is an extremely strong DPS and probably one of the best DPS we have in the game. The other thing to keep in mind, though, is that we do have Malwika running right now. So a lot of people are kind of bouncing back and forth. A lot of people are talking about getting Malwika, and if they lose, then they'll just go for Arlecchino, which honestly is a pretty strong option and kind of idea to go for. Because if you lose to Malwika, you can keep the guarantee for Arlecchino, save a little bit more time, possibly try to get her weapon, and then kind of wait for a character like Malwika, who's probably going to have a rerun quicker than Arlecchino, kind of actually have that happen sooner. So it's definitely a very good idea. So in terms of that, if you need a Pyro character or a Pyro DPS specifically, Arlecchino definitely does the job. Is she the best? She was recently quote-unquote dethroned by another character, Malwika. But the issue is that a lot of things with Malwika are needed to make her extremely good. We talked about this before, but honestly, using a character like Citlali or Shilonin is borderline a must, and pairing them together with someone like Malwika is also extremely strong. So you kind of almost need some other characters to really make Malwika work at the top of her game, whereas Arlecchino really works pretty well in a lot of different areas and doesn't really need crazy buffs from other characters just because she does so well. The thing to keep in mind though with Arlecchino is she's the only one who can heal herself. So if you don't like that type of gameplay where you can't have your healers actually doing too much for you, or if you have an issue with her kind of playstyle and rotation when you play the trial of her, it might change your pulling plans as well. Looking beyond Arlecchino, let's go ahead and talk about the other character, Clorinde. Now, Clorinde's a little bit different. In my personal opinion, I think Clorine's an extremely strong character and a pretty good character at that. At the same time, though, there are other Electro characters that might borderline be worth it more, characters like Raiden, in my personal opinion. But I do think still, though, that I do think, though, still that Clorinde is still an extremely strong character, and that you can't really go wrong with grabbing her. She's going to do extremely well for you, and she even works in a lot of like those quicken and aggravate teams, that kind of idea that works pretty well with her, so she can kind of fit into a better role in there, in my opinion, rather than someone like Raiden, so she kind of has that one up. But at the same time, being that, kind of character that she is, it's almost a little difficult sometimes to build her extremely well. So there's a little bit of a jump between both. I think that Arlecchino is definitely the higher value character on this banner, but I don't think that if someone were to say that I'm going for Clorinde over Arlecchino, you couldn't really get mad at that, because Arlecchino is a better character, but Clorinde still has her own hold on her DPS route that she is on. So both good characters still, and both still very valuable. But Rift, what is the next question that we're looking at?
Yeah, our next question is, what kinds of teams are you trying to build? And obviously with both of these characters, Clorinde and Arlecchino, being DPS characters, they're going to be the main focus of the team. You're going to build around these characters, filling them around with other supports and stuff like that. So if you already have characters that would make sense for their teams, and you have the knowledge of what teams Arlecchino and Clorinde will actually fit into, then these characters might become character to think about that would be good for your account, possibly. For both of these characters, I know Chevreuse is an amazing 4-star to have for both of these characters, because both Arlecchino and Clorinde can be slotted into an overload team, both of which has Chevreuse as kind of a must option. There's other things you can do. With Arlecchino specifically, you can do vaporized teams, which a lot of people have Xingqiu, a very solid option. Bennett, of course, is going to be a great option. Keep in mind, he can't heal your Arlecchino, but that attack buff is just, like, nothing can really replace that. It's just so good. Now, if you do have newer characters, these Natlan characters like Xiaolonen, Citlali, I'm sure, and Vixen, you could probably chime in and say what's good there or not, because you have Arlecchino, I don't, but based on the knowledge of like what these characters can do, Xiaolonen is probably going to have an edge over Kazuha. Also just easier to use, her buff lasts longer. When you use Kazuha, it's not bad, it's just that you have to get that Pyro Swirl off, then you have like 8 to 10 seconds to actually use that. So obviously you have Bennett in there, so that makes that kind of easy. Yelan's also a great option over Xingqiu. You still can use Xingqiu though if you need Yelan for your other side in the Abyss or whatever, because it's mainly about the Hydra application. So you can do Vaporize for Arlecchino, you can do the Overload that we talked about, and there's probably some other interesting things you can do. I've seen weird teams like Burgeon. I'm not going to really recommend that, but it's out there. But just know that she's your Pyro main DPS. That's going to basically do what these other DPSs, the Pyro, do, like Maoika, Hu Tao, Yoimiya, any teams like that, she's going to be good for. And she is, yes, like you said, Vixen, if anything, she is second best only because of Maoika's recent release and Maoika just having a ridiculous ceiling. But one of the catches to that ceiling is that you need characters like Xiaolonen, Citlali, it's a bit more of an expensive team, I would argue, whereas Arlecchino is a little bit more free-to-play friendly. Not that Maoika isn't free-to-play friendly, I just think that Arlecchino's ceiling is a little bit easier to actually reach than Maoika's, just because of needing these more recent characters. And then quickly with Clorinde, once again, Overload's going to be amazing. Characters like Thoma actually get to shine that usually don't get a lot of shine, except for his Burgeon, which is kind of his like one-trick pony. But Thoma's actually pretty good synergy with Clorinde in an Overload team, because you're constantly doing normal attacks with her. Any other Pyro and Electric character you just kind of throw in there, as long as Chevreuse is in there, Clorinde's going to do pretty well with that team. And then, of course, you can do your Quick and Aggravate teams. Clorinde really likes these teams and does really, really well. If you have Nahida, then you can think about Clorinde and do a Dendro-related team. That would be pretty good. So I think those are two of Clorinde's best teams. I'm sure there's other teams out there, but they're probably just not worth mentioning.
Yeah, I was almost thinking about like an Electro Charge team. I'm trying to think of like what you might try to do, some random just team that
just
I would never think
Auron
about.
In there.
Exactly. Throw Auron in there, throw some, you're doing a bunch of normal attacks, you might as well throw Farina in there or something. But definitely some interesting things. I think both of these characters have a lot of ability to play with a lot of different things, which is why I don't think you can really go wrong with either character. Both Bond of Life characters, so they both kind of have a similar idea. Clorinde might be easier to play. You might be able to catch on to how she plays a little bit easier. She might be a little bit of an easier character to understand. But if you can understand how Arlecchino works and kind of grab her, both characters I think are extremely good. But looking past the 5 stars for a quick second, let's do something we haven't done in a long time, which is talk about the 4 stars. Now, we've talked about a little bit that Chevreuse is on this banner actually, and being a good character for both of these characters. That's something to keep in mind, is that Chevreuse is here, and even if you have Chevreuse, everybody wants that C6. I want that C6 and don't have it, so pulling on this banner doesn't actually usually hurt you. So keep that in mind if you're kind of thinking about maybe, you know, looking and getting characters, and if you're thinking about this, you already have the ability to get some pretty solid characters. So there's Chevreuse. But looking at another character, which is Rosaria, now something that might not be talked about as much because it's a little bit more difficult because cryo application isn't quite as strong as hydro application. Technically, you could try to do some sort of like freeze melt or something where you could try to get like Xingqiu and Rosaria out on, you know, just on the field to maybe melt together, freeze, and then get Arlecchino in there to hit them freeze with the melt, or with her pyro to melt or whatever. It might be an interesting team. Plus you're helping with crit rate as well. A little bit less useful when you look at someone like Clorinde though, in my opinion, just because superconduct with her is not going to be that great. But I do think that either way, Rosaria is still a pretty strong character in general, especially with looking at someone like Mawika in the past, talking about all this melt stuff that's coming up. Plus, she's pretty strong for physical and cryo teams as well, if you happen to have those characters. And getting constellations on her only makes her better, obviously, but she actually does have some pretty solid constellations. And another character, or the new character, is Lanyan, who is an Anemo 4-star shielder character, who's based a lot on attack, which means that she actually does have some pretty good damage that even as a 4-star she can still kind of do to just maybe help with the team. And if you don't have someone like Sucrose, or you don't have someone like any of these other characters like Kazuha, Venti, Jean, whatever, Lanyan could be a pretty solid character, I think, for both of these characters, of these 5 stars on the team. You know, I think that Arlecchino could definitely use it more, considering she would like a shielder on the team. She can't get healed, but a shielder means that she's not gonna get hit, which means that she's not gonna need to be using that burst as consistently to heal herself. So I think actually shielders do pretty well with Arlecchino, especially in those like vaporized teams or whatever non-overload teams where they have to be pyro and electro. So I think that can work pretty well. And then obviously on the other side of things, she can work pretty well with Clorinde. Maybe not to as strong of an extent, just because, you know, Dendro teams or whatever, as well as the overload teams, it's a little bit more difficult to maybe throw an animal character in there. But I still think some pretty solid characters for the lineup. If not, at least just Chevreuse is probably enough to make the banners okay to pull on.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Everything you said about those characters. One thing that came to my mind with Lanyan is I agree with the Arlecchino. She'll be pretty good for the sake of that shield. With Clorinde, the thing that came to my mind when you were touching on that is obviously she's not going to work in the overload team because Chevreuse is in there. You can't have an Anemo character in there. But if you were going to do the other team, you can do like an aggravate team. Some of my favorite teams, I'll be honest, even with a character like Ketching, is doing an aggravate team but with only one Dendro, and usually you can get away with that if it is Nahida, because Nahida is just the freaking Dendro Archon, so that does work. I mean, even the Dendro Traveler works pretty well from my experience. But have 2 electro characters, your Anemo character, for the sake of getting that electro swirl, so you can still get that viridescent shred, but also have a Dendro character in there, so you're aggravating but also with that high electro resistant shred from the viridescent. So I feel like Lanyan would be a pretty good budget option to be that shielder, but also that viridescent support, as well as a little bit of additional damage in the team as a kind of a damage dealer that we see in Lanyan. That'd be kind of fun team that I would probably be curious to try out. Maybe in the place of Kirara, because I know people like to use Kirara for Ketching and Clorinde as a budget shielder for those kind of aggravate teams. I could go on and on, but anyways, let's get to our next question, and that is looking at the weapons. We haven't talked about the weapons yet on these banners. As you guys already know, these banners are kind of insane. Both 5 stars really good. The 4 stars are really good. There's really nothing to lose here. And even the weapon banner, I would venture to say, is a really, really good weapon banner. I know they're both for DPSs. Vixen, why don't you just tell them your little thing about DPS weapons?
Well, I mean, I always say that DPSs, you should always grab the weapons for the DPSs first in a team, no matter what. Even the support characters or whatever, healers, it's always easier to grab a DPS weapon because they are easier to be tailor-made for the DPS, because usually DPS, to kind of be different from other characters, have to follow a different route than someone else to be different. So I think the thing is with that is also 4-star weapons don't work as well on DPS characters, whereas there's a lot of 4-star and even 3-star options for a lot of supports. Now that's not to say that you can't use 4-star and 3-star weapons on these characters, but I do think definitely that stuff like this is going to be way easier to get, especially for these two characters. Bond of Life is an extremely good but difficult thing to kind of spec into, so getting the ability to have the weapons with the abilities is going to be 10 times easier to play with them.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's kind of just the trend we see throughout the game. If you've been playing the game a long time, you notice that, yeah, I guess there are a lot of 4-star options that supports can just get away with. You know, you have the whole Favonius series, the Sacrificial series. A lot of supports just can use that because they already do what they need to do based on just their kit alone, and they don't like need this weapon to help them do what they already do, right? Whereas that, yeah, like you said, the DPS, and especially on this one, because these are Bond of Life characters, which there's not very many in the game, that, yeah, you need the weapons are kind of a pretty big increase, and they're definitely first place. As any signature weapon is going to be first place for the character. I just feel like here it's kind of elevated just because, yeah, the Bond of Life, you don't find that gimmick on any other weapons because Arlecchino and Clorinde are the only Bond of Life DPSs. So I think that's a good point to make. My opinion on the weapon banner overall, I think it's a good one. If you're going to pick up one of the characters, hey, you can try to go for one of these weapons. I know I would, but Vixen also knows that any character I get, I'm like, I got to get the weapon. I'm so bent on pulling weapons, guys, that I go to the weapon banner first. Okay, so like, for example, I don't have Arlecchino or Clorinde right now, but if I want to go pull one, I'm going to the weapon banner first because I'd rather walk away with Arlecchino and her weapon than Clorinde and Arlecchino's weapon because that would just really mess with my OCD.
Yeah, that's totally fair, but let's actually talk about the weapons first. With Crimson Moon Semblance or Arlecchino's weapon, 22% crit rate with a higher base attack, so a lower crit rate with a higher base attack, and at R1 it states that it grants a Bond of Life equal to 25% of max HP of the wielder of the weapon when a charge attack hits an opponent, which I already said you're already doing and getting Bond of Life by doing a charge attack on an opponent. When you put that, you're waiting the 5 seconds at C0 for the Bond of Life to kind of be on the enemy. After 5 seconds, you're doing a charge attack to pick it up. So here you're getting even more Bond of Life. And this effect can be triggered up to once every 14 seconds, which is pretty easy to do considering the likelihood of you getting it sooner than that and doing it that quick is not really going to happen very often. In addition, when the equipping character has a Bond of Life, they gain a 12% damage bonus. If the value of the Bond of Life is greater than or equal to 30% of max HP, then throw a 24% additional damage bonus on top of the 12, so now it's 36%. So a pretty strong buff. Obviously, the more Bond of Life also with Arlecchino you have, the more damage you do. So that's also something to keep in mind. So this weapon is not only just giving her Bond of Life to keep her Pyro infusion, but it's also making sure that she's getting a damage bonus, and the Bond of Life is also acting as a damage bonus. So a pretty solid weapon here. And then Absolution at level 90 is giving 44% crit damage, same base attack, 674 at level 90, and the ability increases crit damage further 20%, so you're actually at 64% when you have the weapon at level 90, and then it increases the value of the Bond of Life to the damage to the equipping character deals by 16% for 6 seconds with a max of 3 stacks. So when you're increasing your Bond of Life, you'll then increase the amount of damage you do, which also works obviously extremely well with how Clorinde actually works. Now you're starting to see how if these two characters are the only ones, and they're also completely different weapon archetypes, it's difficult for them to have other weapons that are going to work for them because not a lot of other weapons work with Bond of Life, and the other weapons that do aren't that great. So overall, I think these are pretty solid weapons. If you have the character, you should definitely try to go for them. At the same time, not necessary. The characters can work with other weapons, but I definitely do think these weapons are probably going to be held in a higher value than others.
Well, we hope that this video could help you decide whether or not these characters or maybe even the weapons coming up on this next banner are for you.
As always, if you guys have any other questions, ideas, comments, how you guys feel about this specific banner, go ahead and let us know down in the comment section. If you guys did like the video, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Check out our Discord as well. Thank you guys for watching the video though, and we'll see you guys in the next one.